Hello and welcome or welcome back. And here, welcome to the third episode of this brand new series about the houses in astrology. All right, so the third house, this is the area of life that is connected to our communication, our thinking process. And here we can learn more about our any potential talents when it comes to writing, reading, self-expression, for example. This is also the area of life that deals with our immediate environment, our social activities as well. And the third house is also connected to our siblings, our relationship with our siblings more specifically. Let me share my screen with you now so that you can see where the third house is present. So that's the third house here. And as you can see, teaching and your thinking process, your rational mind, short distance travel as well, which I didn't cover. Yes, so short distance travel, your business. This is also the third house, is your business will be there, blogging, writing, and your driving license. This is also associated with the third house energies and qualities. If you don't have any planets in the third house, you can also look at the ruler of your third house cusp and see whether you can identify with the interpretation of the planet that is the ruler of your third house. So let's now have a look at what each planet means and represents in the third house, starting from the sun. So if your sun is in the third house, this is a very, very important area of your life. So people with the sun in the third house, they are often very good communicators. Generally, communication plays a huge, huge role in their life, and very often they actually end up in careers related to teaching, writing, communicating, sales, for example, anything where they can use their communication skills, whether this is in a verbal way, in a spoken way, or in a written way. There is this need to communicate, to teach, to learn, to study. This is the area of knowledge as well. Here we focus on the more of a practical, mundane side of life, while the ninth house represents more of a worldwide or our worldview, slightly larger than just the practical energy here of that third house. All right, so here the third house, it's really makes one, of course, we need to look at what aspects the sun makes and other aspects, other qualities of your chart. But overall, with the sun in the third house here, communication is really, really important here. Very often there's that strong intellectual curiosity. Early education plays an important part of this person's life. Very often they want to shine, or they did shine in some particular way. As this placement also positively influences your relationship with your siblings, unless the sun is making some really, really challenging aspects, or the ruler of your third. But overall, with the sun here, um, the sun on its own in the third house will not negatively impact these relationship dynamics with your siblings, with your cousins, for example. So there's a lot of interest in writing, in reading, in learning as well. So very often people with the sun in the third house, they become excellent writers, excellent speakers, communicators as well. There is also a very strong connection here with their community, or perhaps some kind of involvement in their life within their community. This could be very much the case. Overall, the sun in the third house enhances communication skills. It enhances that ability connected to self-expression as well. People with the sun in the third house, they've got this really strong need to share their opinions, share their ideas with others. And overall, they often excel in careers related to communication, writing, public speaking as well. Now, with the moon in the third house, the moon is connected to our emotions and feelings. So very often there is a need to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, how you feel, what you're thinking, what's on your mind. Generally, the moon in the third house enhances that emotional sensitivity, intuition when it comes to communication. There's often a very strong connection with siblings. Perhaps you acted as a mother, or you had that nurturing motherly energy towards your siblings early in life. Very often with the moon in the third house, there is a talent for speaking, for writing, especially since very often the emotions, the feelings will influence the communication style. So here with the moon in the third house, there is this natural desire, need for learning, for studying. And usually people with displacement find it easy to absorb knowledge. So here the connection with siblings or cousins is also that emotional connection is strong. Now, people with displacement can be also externally influenced pretty easily here, especially when it comes to their emotions, their feelings. But for this reason, it's really important that they surround themselves with positive people in their immediate environment so that they are not negatively influenced. Now, Mercury in the third house, Mercury is connected to communication, writing, reading. Mercury in the third house feels very comfortable because it is traditionally associated with the third house qualities. So here with Mercury, usually Mercury in the third house gives one really, really strong communication skills, talents, abilities. People with displacement are very curious and they have a natural talent for learning, for studying, for absorbing knowledge. They might have a really, really strong or particular interest in any activities connected to communication, writing, reading, or languages even. They might feel really passionate about activities related to mental stimulation, so mentally stimulating activities or intellectual activities. Mercury in the third house might also give one talent for teaching, sharing knowledge, educating others. The relationship with people who are close to you, your siblings, or some people in your community is usually really important to you. However, there's also often a tendency to analyze or overanalyze or overthink your connection or your relationship or your interactions with people from your environment. Sometimes Mercury in the third house can also make one really restless, especially if there isn't much mental or mentally stimulating activity in this person's life. So for this reason, it's really important with displacement to engage in activities that are mentally stimulating, that can help you to relax your mind. Intellectually, mentally stimulating hobbies, interests are also really beneficial, as well as board games. So here, Mercury in the third house gives one really, really sharp intellect, quick mind, and that ability to grasp knowledge with ease. With Venus in the third house, Venus in the third house can give one beautiful voice, or perhaps some writing abilities, or some sensual, charming energy when it comes to communication. Now, here with Venus in the third house, yes, there is talent for writing. There could be talent for singing. And generally, Venus in the third house is also a social butterfly. So there is that ability to form harmonious connection with others. But at the same time, Venus in the third house is also connected to that appreciation for beauty in your everyday environment. So you like to be surrounded by beauty, creativity in your everyday dealings. At the same time, with Venus in the third house, this is also connected to that ability to bring people together. And here, Venus really, really positively influences the sibling dynamics as well. Lots of harmonious and well-balanced energy. Of course, we need to look at the synastry, we need to look at the aspects, but overall, Venus on its own here can bring a lot of charm, sensible energy as well here when it comes to communication, when it comes to your learning abilities. Venus in the third house, it positively influences early education life as well, so early education years. Venus in the third house promotes communication that is based on diplomacy. Venus in the third house can also give one really amazing writing abilities to write beautiful poems or love letters. Now Mars in the third house. So Mars can bring slightly different energy to Venus, so maybe opposite. There is a lot of passion, there is a lot of charisma, but a lot of confidence and and hear that dynamic energy here when Mars is in the third house when it comes to communication. Now, Mars in the third house individuals need to be careful when driving because there's a tendency to drive fast or faster than one can. So speeding. So it's really essential to be mindful of that, this tendency. On a different level here with Mars in the third house, one can have a really sharp mind. Overall, with Mars in the third house, you might have a talent for argument, for debate. You're probably not afraid to speak your mind or what's on your mind. But here, if someone opposes your ideas, you might find it offensive and you might fight back. And this is when that Martian energy is really activated. So I think it's all about moderation here with Mars in the third house, because it's very easy to perhaps become overly impulsive or dynamic here, especially when there is like a really hot exchange of information. With Mars in the third house, it's essential to learn to express your ideas, your thoughts in a more constructive and diplomatic way. With Mars in the third house, there's a tendency to be argumentative or confrontational. And for this reason, it's really important to learn to express oneself in a more constructive, in a more diplomatic way. At the same time, Mars in the third house gives one a very strong mental stimulation and a need to constantly learn, absorb knowledge, and explore new ideas, new concepts. So when it comes to your relationship with your siblings, very often with Mars can bring a bit of a challenge, a few challenges here. And this means that there could be a little bit of that competitive, rivalry energy in the air. So it's important to learn to cooperate more harmoniously if this is the case, and perhaps work together towards a common goal than against one another. Now, with Mars in the third house, one can be really inspiring with their words. One can have a lot of charisma and that ability to motivate others. With Mars in the third house, perhaps you could be involved in public speaking, in law, in journalism. So overall, Mars in the third house brings a lot of assertiveness to communication. People with displacement are overall very passionate about their ideas and they truly, truly excel in debates or in arguments. Okay, so now Jupiter. Jupiter brings hope and optimism and a lot of faith as well. With Jupiter in the third house, very often people with displacement, they in the early stage of life, they either studied abroad or they learned foreign languages from an early age. So there is an element of something foreign, either moving abroad due to education, so going to a foreign school, or perhaps learning foreign languages. So there is some kind of association with foreign people, foreign languages, something foreign. So here, at the same time with Jupiter, there is generally that eagerness to absorb knowledge. And there's a lot of joy in education at school that is found in early education and school. People with displacement have an inner ability to teach and inspire others through their communication skills. Very often with Jupiter in the third house, there is a natural talent for teaching, for mentoring, for sharing knowledge. When it comes to their relationship with the siblings, there is some kind of adventurous energy connected to perhaps mutual goals, mutual travels related to exploration, adventure. Perhaps you have traveled or you travel with your siblings and explore new areas, new places together. Jupiter in the third house, you've got this natural curiosity to learn more about the world around you. And you might be particularly interested in religion and philosophy, spirituality, or other subjects related to higher learning, higher education. It's really important to stay open-minded with this placement and avoid becoming dogmatic in your beliefs. As Jupiter in the third house gives you this tendency or this ability to see the bigger picture, but sometimes it's very easy to miss out or perhaps overlook a little detail. So here, just to summarize, Jupiter in the third house promotes optimism in your communication style, and overall it gives this ability to absorb knowledge with ease. It promotes positive connections, relationships with people in your immediate surroundings, as well as lots of perhaps passion towards learning, traveling, connecting with others, communicating, sharing your knowledge, teaching, mentoring, coaching as well. Jupiter in the third house gives one this ability, natural ability to inspire others through their communication. All right, so let's look at Saturn. Saturn, the Lord of Karma. Saturn in the third house makes one a serious, mature communicator from a very young age. For some people, and here we also need to look at Mercury, what aspects Saturn makes to other planets, but sometimes with Saturn in the third house, the speech can be either delayed, but once mastered, then a child with Saturn in the third house can have very, very strong communication skills, but at the same time, that ability to communicate constructively in a mature and really well-developed way. Now, at the same time, Saturn in the third house, sometimes there's a tendency towards self-criticism or that lack of self-confidence in one's intellect. So I think it's something to work on here with displacement. Very often, children with Saturn in the third house, they don't really enjoy early education. It might be that it feels restricting or limiting, but overall, there could be this feeling of a certain degree of dissatisfaction. At the same time, when it comes to communicating, even though they can be very good and strong communicators, but they might be slightly either reserved, or they might not have this strong need to just talk for the sake of it, but their communication style might be more reserved. People with Saturn in the third house are diligent learners, and they excel in fields that require attention, that require structure, that require precision. With Saturn in the third house, sometimes it's difficult to express oneself. Or perhaps some people might experience communication blockages at some point in their life. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there could be a certain degree of self-doubt when it comes to your own intellectual abilities and capabilities. And also there could be some clash of energies or some restricting, limiting energy when it comes to your relationship with your siblings. So here with Saturn in the third house, especially if these challenges are experienced early in education, for example, it's really important to be persistent. Because this way one can overcome the challenges that come up, emerge in your education or learning journey. With Saturn in the third house, one may have a very strong ability for organization and planning, and may excel in fields such as accounting, law, or research. It's really important here with displacement to stay focused and avoid becoming too critical or self-limiting in your thinking. So here with Saturn, there are lessons to overcome connected to communication, and with patience and perseverance, one will learn to express themselves effectively and achieve their goals in the area of communication, of learning as well. Right. Let's have a look at Uranus. So here, Uranus in the third house. So yes, Uranus is connected to that eccentric, unique, original energy. People with this placement have the strong ability to think out of the box. They are very creative, innovative in their ideas. Very often, Uranus in the third house, Uranus is connected to internet, technology, media, working through media online, or perhaps having your own business, working on your own terms. This is very prominent here for those with Uranus in the third house. Now, Uranus in the third house thinks differently, sees things differently as well. There's a natural talent for thinking out of the box and coming up with some really original and unique, innovative, progressive ideas. Those with Uranus in the third house very often are interested in science, computer programming, coding, gaming. Uranus in the third house could also give one talent for writing, public speaking. When it comes to the relationship with siblings, this could be a relationship that requires a lot of freedom, a lot of independence as well. Perhaps you enjoy exploring new and some innovative ideas, adventures together. Now, with Uranus in the third house, it's really important to be open, to be flexible in your thinking, as very often with Uranus here, there is a tendency to undergo or experience sudden shifts in perspective or changes of mind. So here, Uranus in the third house gives one natural curiosity, intellectual stimulation. Perhaps you are drawn to very different ways of learning. Perhaps this is connected to also having spent some part of early education in a boarding school. Or perhaps this could be also connected to learning online through technology, through internet. Uranus in the third house gives one unconventional communication style, but at the same time, there is a strong desire for intellectual freedom. Now, with Neptune in the third house, there's a lot of dreamy, mystical energy. Neptune in the third house makes one a very creative and idealistic writer. So lots of really beautiful, idealistic, romantic ideas that can come into one's mind, especially for those who are involved in written projects or journaling or journalism, for example. So here with Neptune in the third house, there could be this natural talent for creative writing, poetry, or other ways of artistic expression. Now, people with this placement might be also very receptive to external influences, energies in the immediate environment. Neptune in the third house also gives one talent to read between lines. And when it comes to the relationship with the siblings, there is a lot of empathy, compassion, but maybe sometimes also disconnection to a certain degree, or some kind of mystery that could be circulating around your relationship with your sibling. At the same time, you might be really attuned to each other's emotional needs. However, with Neptune here, there's also a tendency towards misunderstandings or confusion in communication. And this is because sometimes that intuition, because here Neptune in the third house gives one a very strong intuition. Sometimes intuition can overtake the rational mind, and this is when the confusion or misunderstandings could be taking place. Perhaps if you're experiencing misunderstandings, confusion in your communication regularly, then perhaps meditation or yoga, grounding exercises could help you to stay grounded and avoid being lost in your own thoughts or fantasies. Here with Neptune in the third house, here Neptune gives you that natural creativity, intuition, and at the same time, you might be drawn to careers connected to art, music, spirituality. And finally, with Pluto in the third house, here Pluto gives one a probing mind, a very curious mind, a mind that wants to get to the root of any problem or any issue. There is this really, really strong need to thoroughly understand a specific topic. If you're undergoing a certain research, or if you're just researching information about a specific topic, you will feel absolutely obsessed with this idea, and you will want to find out as much as you can, especially when it comes to, let's say, purchasing a fridge or a new phone, whatever it is that you need. You will want to generally conduct a proper, deep research until you're fully satisfied, until you gain that full clarity and you know which object, which model to choose. With Pluto in the third house, Pluto gives one a very intense and very transformative way of communicating. And at the same time, this placement can make one a very powerful, intense communicator as well, who can actually truly get their message across. So for this reason, it's really essential to choose your words wisely, because they have a very strong effect on other people's perception of reality, of you, of what you're saying. Here, Pluto in the third house gives one an ability to uncover hidden truths, secrets, mysteries. Now, there is a tendency with this placement towards compulsive, obsessive thinking. So it's something to watch out for as well. Now, when it comes to the relationship with the siblings, there could have been power struggles. There could have been some intense exchange of words and some intense emotional dynamics. Now, when it comes to education, there could have also been some challenging, deep, transformative experiences that also changed your way of thinking. Perhaps you changed school early in life that had also impacted you quite profoundly, not in a negative sense, but it had an impact upon your upbringing, upon your education or further education. So there is some kind of big transformation that occurred early in life, in your education life, and this could have been connected to a change of school that had a big impact upon your upbringing, upon your school life, early school life. Now, people with displacement, they excel in jobs connected to deep and transformative communication. So psychology, psychotherapy, coaching as well, and maybe even working with in the holistic industry, spirituality, guiding others, counseling also, generally careers where you can use your investigative skills to uncover the truth, go down deep, and help others. So here with that natural intensity and drive, people with Pluto in the third house have this strong potential to make a really, really powerful impact on the world around them. So overall here, Pluto in the third house makes one an intense and a transformative communicator with a probing and investigative nature, and also with a powerful influence on others through their words. All right, so we reached the end of this episode. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next episode, episode number 4, we will look at the fourth house. So thank you very much, and until then.